Bit of a synopsis about the book and how it came to be written. So I'm not really that au fait with public speaking at the moment. This is really my first official event. So I'm actually going to be reading my speech. Okay. Have you ever felt guided and inspired by unseen forces? Have you ever felt so compelled to do something that no matter what else presented itself, you had no choice but to heed the inner urge? I've never felt so on purpose as I have in the last 5 years, even though there were many times I was tempted to down tools and throw in the towel. When procrastination snapped at my heels or self-doubt crept in like a thief in the night, I'd hear the voice of reason quietly whisper in my ear, "You can do this, you need to do this." Whenever I asked the question, what am I supposed to be doing with my life, I would hear the same words over and over again. Write your book, people need to hear your story. 2012, the year that the Mayan calendar abruptly ended and many a prophet and Hollywood producer speculated on some kind of catastrophe that would end the world. Though I didn't buy into the hype and the fear porn, I did have some apprehension about what this fateful year may have in store. I tentatively planned on taking an RDO from my job on the 21st of December and hoped that my immediate family members would do the same so that we could be together, just in case the unthinkable did happen. In actuality, by the time the date rolled around with little or no significance to humanity and the world at large, I wished and hoped and prayed that my world would end. My misgivings started in the January of 2012 when I lost my loyal and devoted dog Ash. She was a Shepherd Husky mix. She had succumbed to the German Shepherd curse of back-end problems and ageing ailments. She was 13. I couldn't watch her struggle any longer, so I had to make that wretched decision to lay her to rest. A few months later, my mother headed off for her trip back to England to be by her sister's side as her sibling was having major heart surgery. My mother had actually had the same operation 10 years prior, so she knew what recovery was like, so she wanted to be there. Coincidentally, Mum actually flew back to England exactly 40 years to the date that we left Southampton in England in 1972 to come and live in Australia. Less than 2 weeks after my mother arrived in England, my sister and I received a phone call from our cousin informing us that our mother was now in hospital. She'd suffered a massive stroke. Through an amazing and somewhat otherworldly chain of events, my sister and I retraced our mother's footsteps and found ourselves back in the UK just over a week later. It seemed as the universe or God or whatever you want to call it was conspiring in order for us to be by our mother's side. Despite the odds and the difficulties stacked against us, divine intervention interjected and we witnessed miracles on a daily basis. I'll just speak freely here a little bit. A couple of the little things that happened were we actually got the last 2 tickets on the plane. Had we missed them, we probably would have missed seeing Mum. And there was a lot of other little things like that along the way that just helped get us there when we needed to.
Please make your way to the junior area.
We got to spend 4 days with Mum before she passed away, and then we had the arduous task of arranging her repatriation. If it wasn't for a suggestion of a friend of mine to begin journaling, this book most probably would never have been written. Our minds were in such a blur around this time of the tragedy that I had to write about everything in order to get things in my head right and what needed to be done. Later, my writing became more an avenue of expressing my deep despair and grief. I was steamrolled that fateful year of 2012. Not only did I lose my dear Ash, followed by my beloved mother, but I subsequently lost my job of nearly 10 years. I had to have an operation and I had another unrelated health scare. And as if this wasn't enough to cope with, my marriage almost ended. I couldn't wait to see the back of 2012. If the Mayan prophecy was right and the world was going to end on December 21st, I was looking forward to ending my misery here and now. December rolled on and into a new year and then another year, and I continued to write like a mad woman possessed. I'd sit for hours along the foreshore out here gazing out into Moreton Bay, allowing the peninsula to embrace me like a warm comforter as I opened the floodgates of my childhood memories. Returning home is the result of almost 5 years of reflection, soul-searching and pouring my heart out. There were sometimes weeks or even months when I couldn't bear to relive the horror of 2012. I'd get to that part of my story and hit a brick wall. Finally, I was strong enough to push through, and once I did, my grief lifted and I had a sense of closure. My book is not only a diary of my grief, but it weaves a tapestry of people and places and so-called coincidences, I use that term loosely, everything happens for a reason, that make up my life thus far. So now I'd like to speak a little bit about the publishing process, or the self-publishing process. I've been an avid reader of self-development and spiritual books for most of my life, and I've loved authors such as Louise Hay and Wayne Dyer. One day when I was about halfway through my manuscript, I received an email from Hay House Publishing saying that if I fancied myself as an author, or if I had a book inside bursting to come out, that if I clicked the link below I could find out more information. So I did, and it took me to Balboa Press website. Balboa Press is a division of Hay House Publishing. They offer a range of self-publishing packages. I originally chose one of the more basic options, but a few months later decided to upgrade to the premium package as they had so much more to offer. Some of these things include an ISBN assignment. For those that don't know, that's a number on the book so that anyone can order the book worldwide. They also offered online worldwide distribution through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Booktopia and other online bookstores. They did the cover and interior book design, e-book formatting, so you can purchase the book online in the e-book format, distribution, copyright registration, promotional materials such as the postcards that you've got, bookmarks and business cards, website setup, press release, editorial assessment and author volume discounts and much more. The beauty about self-publishing is that you get to keep a larger chunk of your royalties, especially if you purchase the bulk volumes and you self-distribute, which is what I'm doing. Balboa Press are on hand to offer advice and mentoring throughout the entire process. The other main drawcard to self-publishing, as opposed to going with a traditional publishing house, is that there's no deadline or time limit when you must submit your finished manuscript. Thank goodness there isn't, as I kept pushing and extending my submission date out time and day whenever I found myself bumped up against that brick wall that I spoke about. Balboa were very patient with me and allowed me to take all the time that I needed. They offered roadmaps and a direction, but I never felt obliged to commit to a hard and fast finish date. Once I submitted my material, it was only a matter of a few weeks before the first draft was returned for my appraisal and approval. The only downside was that I was not in a financial position to hire a line editor. I didn't realise, but to get a line editor to edit every line in the book, you're looking at about $25,000 to $30,000. So I had to do it myself. Balboa actually do a section for me, so I've got an idea of what to look for. So I elected to self-edit, which can be counterintuitive, so I found out. It's amazing how one can read and reread umpteen times the same mistake without catching it. It wasn't until the book went to print and I had the very first copy in my hands that I realised how many faux pas that I had actually let slip through. Oh well, it's a great lesson for me. One, to help me overcome my sometimes obsessive need for perfection. And two, I'll be more inclined to ask others to proofread before I do my final sign-off next time around. But all in all, it's been an amazing experience becoming a published author. It's a dream come true, and the exhilaration that I actually felt when I held my very own book in my hands for the first time, staring down at the picture of my mother on the front cover, was just absolutely amazing. I felt Mum's presence many times since her passing, and I know that she's proud of me and was one of those voices egging me on to keep at it until I was done. In those times of self-doubt and procrastination, I heard her words and the words of the late Wayne Dyer, "Don't die with your music still inside of you." Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce, I have a few guest speakers that are in my story throughout the book. So the first speaker I'd like to call is my dear friend, Karina.